Poultry farms here on Delmarva, big business. You know it, I know it, we all know it. So think about this. If you are looking to either get into the poultry farm business or perhaps you are ready to move on from it, when it's time to make moves, you want somebody you know knows the ins and outs of the poultry farm process. Guess what? We would like to introduce to you this afternoon Realtor Debbie Figgs. She is the team lead with the Figgs Team of Delmarva. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to tell you right now that we have been talking before the camera came on, and I'm going to try to make sure that we cover at least some of the stuff that you and I were talking about,
Right.
because it's absolutely fascinating what you were telling me. And we're talking specifically right now poultry farms at the moment. You have sold an astonishing number of poultry farms.
I have.
How many?
51.
Is that difficult?
It can be. It's a challenge.
Why?
Well, basically you have to make sure that the farm fits the person and the person fits the farm, because not everybody fits a poultry farm out there that they're looking at. So we have to educate first, basically. We have to sit there and we look at everything and make sure that the farm that they're looking at makes sense.
Yeah. Has poultry farms always been your specialty? Have you always had an interest?
I have worked in the poultry industry since the 1990s. So when I became a realtor, that was something I wanted to fulfill.
I know there's a bunch involved here, so I'm going to ask if you can boil it down. If you have somebody who's interested into getting into a poultry farm, what's the number one piece of advice you'd give them?
Let's talk first. Let's educate and understand the business. Then we look at everything and make sure where they want to be, and then we look at the farms that are in that area. We might have to go over to another state if that farm fits them better. Then we sit down and if I'm working with a buyer, we look at projections to make sure that the cash flow works. If I'm working with a seller to sell their farm, I do the same cash flow, but I don't give it to a buyer. We just talk. So we make sure that if we list it, we're listing at the right amount of money that they'll be happy with, but also the fact that it'll get to the closing table.
Okay, so that's poultry farms.
Yes.
You also do residential.
I do.
Now, one of the things that you said to me just a second ago was it's not just a business for you.
Oh, no.
It's not just buying, it's not just selling, it's education.
Mm-hmm.
Explain, how so?
Well, in like one grower, even residential, but we'll talk about poultry. I remember when he first bought his chicken farm, he was so nervous. And then about 6 months later, he went through about 3 flocks of chickens. He come in and saw me and he says, I'm ready to buy another chicken farm. He goes, I am so excited. I have placed first, second, first, and I just love it. Well, it's almost like that was my payday, right, because of his excitement of what he did. So I'm like, okay, do you want to move too fast? And then we talk about that and everything, going to another farm. And then he says, I need to take a little bit of time, but I'm so excited because that farm did work for me. And it's like an excitement because, yeah, it's not your chicken farm that, right, you're making the income, but seeing that person excited and knowing that you did your job to get them there, and that's now their business. It's
people too. So you and your team are invested in the person as well.
Yes, yes. I have one other agent on my team. And she does very well. So what we normally do, if people even come to me and say they're looking for a house or land, and I'm so wrapped up sometimes in the poultry farms that I'm like, okay, here, can you go and show them? And we actually just closed on one that was my client, and she did very well with them and took care of them. And again, we went through a couple, houses that didn't work, and we just keep plugging and keep going until we find that right property for them. And then we're excited when it's finally there and they're excited. So
and it's good for everybody.
It is.
Realtor Debbie Figgs, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and sharing that with us.
I appreciate it.